Good evening, everyone. The time is, wow, that is really loud. The time is 6:01 p.m. It is Monday, October 3rd. I'm going to call the special city council meeting to order. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell.
Here.
Rizzo.
Present.
Flores-Kell.
Here.
Bradshaw.
Here.
Parsley.
Here.
Tobias.
Here. All right, 6 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, executive session.
Pursuant to Chapter 551, the Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all the following topics: pending or contemplated litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071, Julia Parker Family Partnership and the L.W. Parker Family Trust, Z220104, New Haven Assisted Living Facility, Limestone Creek, Southwest Kyle, possible purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate pursuant to Section 551.072 to deliberate the purchase of real property for public purpose, downtown property acquisition. 3, personnel matters pursuant to Section 551.074. 4, convene into executive session pursuant to Section 551.087 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more business prospects that the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in the city, in or near the city. Project Jasmine Restaurant Incentive Program. That's it.
I'm going to open citizen comments. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, citizen comments is now closed. All right, we're in exec. Thank you. 6 p.m. There was no action taken during executive session. There will be no action taken now. Motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned. All right, good evening, everyone. The time is 7:07 p.m. It is Monday, October 3rd, and I'm going to call this regularly scheduled city council meeting to order. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell.
Here.
Rizzo. Flores-Kell.
Here.
Bradshaw.
Here.
Parsley.
Here.
Tobias.
Here. All right, 6 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, citizen comments. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I have 2 registered to speak. First up, Ms. Susan Reyna.
My name is Susan Reyna, and I live in Stagecoach Crossing neighborhood on Johnny Cake Drive. And I'm here to talk to you tonight about item number 9, which is a presentation regarding evaluation of traffic conditions on Conestoga Drive, Old Stagecoach Drive to Scott Street. There are some backup materials with your item, and the numbers in them seem to indicate that there's only a minor problem with speeding in our neighborhood. And it does thankfully say that there have not been any accidents this last year, which I am very grateful for. But the concern of me and everyone else in the neighborhood is that if there was an accident, it would involve a small child, because the road where people are speeding is adjacent to the park where many children are crossing the street constantly. They live near that park. I have 3 issues with the findings in the document you have before you. 3 reasons why I think the numbers are not truly representative of the problem. First is that the traffic study was conducted with a trailer-mounted speed radar, which is normal, that lovely little device we've seen in movies and in real life that shows the speed as you're driving down the street. And that alone causes people to slow down. That's a traffic calming measure in itself. And some of my neighbors have commented on the fact that it's no longer working because they thought it was there to slow down the traffic because they saw it working to slow down the traffic. So when people see that as they approach, they slow down so you don't get the real numbers of what they normally speed through there. Secondly, that road still has large construction vehicles parked on it at times, which serve to slow down the traffic as well. So you don't really see the true speeds that are in there. And the third reason is a little goofy, but I do know in our neighborhood Facebook page that some of the residents were running and biking and skateboarding through and trying to set off the numbers, and it did sometimes register them. So some of the percentage may be off from the people that were playing with the sign as well. So I just want you to realize that those numbers are not truly representative of the people that are speeding through our neighborhood. And the report also gives several options, and we are vehemently opposed to option number 1, which is do nothing. Option 2 is to change the speed limit from 30 to 25 miles per hour. I don't think that that would solve our main fear. I wouldn't mind having the traffic slow down a little, but that doesn't really solve the problem. Options 3, 4, or 5, I think all would be great, and I leave that up to you to decide which one to choose. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next up, Sylvia Gallo.
Hello, thank you. My name is Sylvia Gallo. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I guess I could touch on that one about the speed limit. Don't lower it. Universal did that, and it shocked the residents, and it caused a lot of, personally, people are used to the 30 speed limit in residential. When you lower it down to 20, it's just, it's not good for the community. But I'm not here to speak about that. I'm here to speak about, I'm in construction. I'm a business owner and not only a resident of Kyle, Texas. I live in Amberwood. And I'm here to I know that you guys are evaluating budgeting. I'd like to just keep it in your minds about the recreational center and development in the east side. I'm for east side growth. As I'm working on construction projects with TxDOT, I'm seeing the growth that they're wanting me to bid out on Highway 21. Let's keep our emphasis and focus on growing not only this side of Kyle, but let's grow the east side. East side has a lot of development that we could actually be utilizing to bring more economic development. So I just wanted to just refresh your minds and keep that mindset of let's grow the east side. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Next up, Steve Delory.
Evening, Mayor Mitchell and City Council members. Position has opened up on the Planning and Zoning Committee for which I've applied, and I just wanted to spend a little time and tell you why I might be a good candidate for that. I was born and raised in Canada, and my first career was 25 years with the Canadian Air Force as a military officer. For the first part of that, I was a naval aviator, and I flew off naval ships in helicopters. And I won a number of awards for proficiency and successful rescue, and finished my flying portion of my career with about 1,500 hours of flying and having rescued 22 people. In 1999, I moved to Colorado Springs and worked in the Cheyenne Mountain Operations Center as a Missile Warning Center commander, responsible for looking for and reporting missile launches around the globe for the National Command Authorities. And while I was in Colorado Springs, my family and I fell in love with the United States. And I, my wife, and our 3 sons applied for permanent residency in 2004, and that was granted in 2008. And it was a proud moment for me when, in April 24th, 2013, I was sworn in as a citizen of these United States. After retiring from the Air Force, I worked as an engineer and an engineering manager for 3 years, and then in 2009, I struck out on my own, started my own engineering company. My business was primarily the design and construction of power and control systems for a variety of industrial clients, including offshore oil and gas facilities, water treatment facilities, locomotives, and ships. While I was consulting, I was living in Houston, but regularly visiting my son and his family who lived here in Kyle. And when they started having children, my wife and I wanted to participate in their lives, and so we moved to Kyle. Since that time, we moved here in 2020. Since that time, my sister-in-law and my daughter-in-law's family have also bought homes here in Kyle. And so now we have 4 of our families here. So we have community within community here in Kyle, and we're proud to be that. So you can see I'm quite vested in ensuring that the Kyle of tomorrow be the city that we enjoy today and that we want to be proud of in the future. With respect directly to the work in the Planning and Zoning Commission, I have a lot of training and practical experience as a professional engineer with road layout, construction, utility, power and water systems, and industrial control. And I'm fully conversant with all types of construction drawings and diagrams and calculations. I'm an experienced project manager, and I'm able to assess projects to see where they're at and their health and status. I'm ready to do my part to help make Kyle a great place to grow up and to live. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you. That's all the forms that I have. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments. It is now closed. Next up, approval of the minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes for the special call meeting for September 20th at 5:30. Also the second one, special meeting on the same day of September 20th. City Council meeting minutes for September 20th, the regular meeting, and the special meeting for September 24th, all in 2022.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Rizzo, that we approve the minutes. Is there discussion on that motion?
Just wanted to thank all of council real quick for all that y'all do, especially during that day that I had to miss because of a family thing we were dealing with. I just want to thank y'all for all that y'all do, and for, this is the first council meeting that I've missed in 3.5 years, and it's still bugging me that I had to miss, but I just want to thank y'all for filling in and doing a great job while I was gone. I really appreciate all what y'all do. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And to finish off with that, again, I do appreciate the recognition and referencing the CLEA award I had on there. That was one of the special minute meetings, and I appreciate that very much. And also to the City of Kyle, thank you for your outpouring support on that.
All right, anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is agenda orders. Is there anyone who wishes to move any, request moving any of the items? All right. Seeing none, next up is appointments. Consider impossible action to fill a midterm vacancy for seat 1 of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and to consider eligible applicants remaining from the previous call for applications. This is Mr. Atkinson. You said that just after we filled our board seats, that a new vacancy came up, and I just wanted to state that per our policy, it very clearly states that we are allowed to use the existing applicant pool to fill that vacancy, and so that's why Mr. Atkinson is here.
Yes, sir. Will Atkinson, Planning Director, for the record. As the mayor has stated, at the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in executive session, one of our commissioners, Mr. Timmons, decided he no longer wanted to be part of the commission, and he stepped down effective immediately. So that's why we brought this back to y'all. We felt it was close enough to the last applicant call that per the midterm vacancy, section 1, that we could pull from the existing pool, and we brought this item before you to consider.
Okay, and I appreciate Mr. Delory coming. He was one of the applicants that there were only 4 of us there, but that there was some consensus around him, but there was a concern about his presence, even though there's only 4 of us at that meeting, but he's come and made himself available. And because there was that consensus, I'd like to make a motion to approve Steve Delory to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilmember Florescale.
Yes, I also see that, Ms. Sylvia, is this you, Valerie? Your name's on planning and zoning as well. So I just wanted to make sure, were you still interested?
I don't think.
That's Sylvia Gallo.
Well, it says, it's a different one because it doesn't say Gallo. Okay, you're Gallo, never mind. Okay, never mind. I just wanted to make sure you had the same first name. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Mr. Delory. All right, next up is Domestic Violence Awareness Proclamation. This is mine. I do this every year, and we do have some representatives, I believe, of the Women's Center here. All right, so whereas the crime of domestic violence violates the basic human rights of safety and dignity, and 228 Texans were killed due to the domestic violence. And whereas the problem of domestic violence and teen dating violence are not confined to any group of people, but cut across all economic, racial, gender, and societal barriers. And whereas the impact of domestic violence and teen dating violence directly affects individuals and communities when society ignores or tolerates violence in relationships. And whereas last year, the Haze Caldwell Women's Center provided face-to-face services to over 816 local victims of domestic violence and provided 7,753 days of shelter. And whereas last year, the Haze Caldwell Women's Center provided these direct services to 166 victims from the city of Kyle. Now, therefore, I, Travis Mitchell, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of Kyle, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2022 as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month and call upon the people of Kyle to work together with the Haze Caldwell Women's Center and local partners to bring an end to domestic violence and teen dating violence. Ms. Rodriguez, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the council for recognizing October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Our theme every year is safer homes, safer communities. And it's important to take a stand as a community to show support for those who are experiencing domestic violence. I know we read a number of the folks that we served, but there are also countless who go underserved or who still stay in silence, unfortunately. But as a community, I feel like if we all rose up together, those folks can know that we're here to support them. So thank you so much for bringing this to attention. I would encourage all community members to get involved. There's so many things that we can all do to help end domestic violence in our communities. Our website's hcwc.org, lots of information there on ways to get involved. And we are also partnering with the Sheriff's Office. I wanted to mention that. Local law enforcement, Kyle PD as well, will be highlighting domestic violence at football games. It's an annual tradition that we started a few years ago that kind of went frozen for a little while because of COVID. But we brought it back and we're able to go out into the schools and talk more with young people about preventing domestic violence. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Does anybody have any comments? Councilor Tobias.
Years ago, when my son was playing football for Lehman, we were really active involved with that with the Travis County Sheriff's Department. They did the same thing where they had student athletes come together against dating violence and so forth on that. And so we were very fortunate, and he was very fortunate to be involved in that program as well. So I'm glad to see that we're still reaching out to our youth. We're still reaching out to our athletes as well of the importance of this very serious subject. And we appreciate all what you do at the center as well. Is there any other maybe challenges that you're starting to see again with I know we had COVID, but what we're seeing afterwards, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in the area?
Unfortunately, with regard to domestic violence, we knew COVID was going to have an effect on folks who are experiencing domestic violence, and we have seen that. Our shelter is almost always at capacity. We were fortunate to receive some funding from the county recently in order to furnish 4 more bedrooms in our attic space that we had already planned for the future growth, and the future is here. So unfortunately, we are having to furnish those as well to provide more shelter. Housing is the biggest need, affordable housing. There's just not very much affordable housing in our communities, unfortunately. We did open Marla's Place. I don't know if y'all remember, we opened up a transitional housing apartment complex. We have that in operation. We just opened in August, very exciting. But that's only 18 apartments. That's not going to serve every community member who needs it. So my hope is that we can develop some partnerships in this community. We want some folks to be able to stay in the communities that they live in. Not everyone wants to relocate to San Marcos. I don't know why, that's where I'm from, just kidding. No, but seriously, we do want to provide options. We know there's folks in this community in Kyle who want to stay here. So if there are ways that we can find some affordable housing opportunities for them, I would love to partner up with the city and find and explore different relationships that we have. I'm working on that with San Marcos already as well. So thank you for that question.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for all you do as well. That's
Thank
good.
you.
That's good feedback that we need to know. I think everybody needs to hear the challenges going forward to be able to help with that process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Thank you. I would encourage anybody sitting on the dais to go take a tour of that place. Me and Councilmember Tobias and Councilmember Ellison took a tour at the beginning of this year, I think it was, and it was amazing.
Thank
It
you.
was so amazing to be able to walk and know what you guys do for these women and men. We were told men go there too, and I was kind of taken back by that, but I love that idea. But I would like to take another tour because when I was there, the houses weren't all the way done, and so I'd like to see
yes.
them all. That would be really great. So
Please do. Reach out to me. I'm happy to set up another tour. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful campus, and it's very refreshing. I walk out now in the morning. Sometimes I can hear the kids playing outside. We have an on-site daycare center, so that's wonderful to know that these children are in a safe place. So yes, please come and visit. I'd be happy to take y'all again. And anyone else that's interested here in council, of course. We also have a virtual tour on our website. So I think often people don't know what to expect when you talk about emergency shelter or housing. And this is one way, a unique opportunity to be able to see it firsthand in a very secure way. Of course, we didn't show everything, but we want to make sure our folks stay safe, of course, but we want them to know what that looks like. So,
well, thank you to all of you guys.
thank you. Yep.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Mayor
just
Pro
one
Tem.
final thing. Rachel and Captain, if we could add something in our pages, recognizing that this is a Domestic Violence Awareness Month, that we could add something, resources, who to call, and one of the biggest things is report. That's something we could really emphasize. If you see something or you suspect something, report it. That's very important because sometimes people just don't have a way out. And it takes someone else in the community to report it. So please, let's do all we can. Also, I know when we hold big events that I take the extra leftover food to y'all. Are y'all amenable to receiving that from other events as well?
Yes.
Cool. So if you have a large event out there, I've been doing this for decades. I've been taking food over to the shelter, and everybody's very appreciative of it. So if you have a large event and you have food left over, please bring it over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? As always, thank you for coming. It's my honor to bring forward these proclamations because, you're right. I saw it too in the pandemic, just how important your organization is. I consider you one of the most important nonprofits in the county. And so just thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Y'all do a fantastic job. And so we appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Just walk up to the
from the guys.
All right, let's not do it in Hannah mode. Photo. All right. It's got wheels. It's got wheels. All right, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, thank you. Yes, I will. Okay, thanks. Thank you. You appreciate it.
Okay, next up, City Manager's report.
Mayor, Council, for the record, Jerry Hendricks, Interim City Manager. We're going to start off tonight with Rachel Sonnier to discuss bond open house number 2.
Hello, Council. Rachel Sonnier, Communications Director, for the record. So we just held our first open house this past Saturday on October 1st. It went really well. We have the panel discussion that happened here in council chambers. It will be on the Kyle Bonds website soon. We're getting it time-stamped and everything right now on YouTube, and then we're going to add it. But it is available right now on our Facebook page if you want to go rewatch it, as well as the YouTube page if you want to go watch it there. We'll have our second open house for the road bond on Thursday, October 20th from 6 to 8:30. It'll be at the Kyle Public Works Building right over there on the east side. And attendees will have the opportunity to kind of get details, funding amount, all that kind of information about each individual project, as well as tax impact information, voting information, and also just talk to city staff, road bond engineers, and ask any kind of questions that they have. So we highly encourage anyone that would like to come out that evening to come out, and then also, if you can't, to go to kylebonds.com, find information about each individual project there, as well as voting information, tax impact information, or just email us at the Kyle Bonds website also. All right, and then I'm going to bring Mariana up to discuss.
Next up is Mariana Espinoza, Parks Director, with all the parks activities planned for the next couple months.
Mayor and Council, Mariana Espinoza, Parks and Recreation Director. On Friday, we hosted our Halloween dance for individuals with disabilities, the Boogie Ween. It was really well attended by a generous donation from Gemstone Palace to utilize the facility. I had over 210 participants in attendance, and staff would like to give a special thanks to the police department for also being present on Friday. This Saturday, we have our annual Founders Parade. The parade starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. Staging will start at Greg Clark Park and will proceed all the way down Center Street and conclude at Mary Kyle Hartson Park, where the market days will also be going on from 9 to 2 at the same time. And to conclude the parade, we will have birthday cupcakes for the City of Kyle Founding Day in 1880. And then next Friday, we have the Halloween movie in the park at Greg Clark Park at sundown. It is free, open to the public, and we will be showing the movie Coco. And then looking a little bit further ahead, on Saturday, October 22nd, we have our annual trick-or-treat, Center Street trick-or-treat from 12 to 3 down at Mary Kyle Hartson Park. It is also free and open to the public. And next Monday is the last day to register for our fall cornhole tournament. The cornhole tournament will take place under Ash Pavilion on Saturday, October 15th. You only need 2 people to register and no more than 4 people per team, and it's $20 per team. Another program reminder, we have registration open now for the November 5th Youth Basketball Clinic that starts at 9 a.m. at Simon Middle School. And then looking ahead, just a couple save the dates. Santa's arrival is just a few months away. On Thursday, December 1st, from 4 to 9 p.m. at Mary Kyle Hartson Park, with the tree lighting and lighting of City Square Park taking place at approximately 6:30. And then keep your eyes open for our calendar for 25 Days of Christmas, where we will have the lights every day downtown with vendors. Music Mondays will be back, and other activities. And I believe that's all I have. Yes.
Thank you, Mariana. Next up is our Library Director, Kara Waite. Kara not here. Well, I'm not the library.
I'll give her a brief synopsis. She sent it to me. All right. Rachel Sonia again, for the record. So the library will be hosting 3 events coming up. The first one will be Fiesta De Los Flores. It will be their Hispanic Heritage Month promotion, but basically they'll have crafts available, Latin American heritage crafts and refreshments, performers. The Wallace Middle School Mariachi Band will also be performing. So patrons will have the ability to create their own maracas, tissue paper flowers, and do some yarn painting. So that'll be the first event on, October 15th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and that'll be at the Kyle Public Library. And you can find more information about that on the city calendar page. Their next one will be the Genealogy Bash. That will be on Friday, October 21st from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's a full-day event at the library. Essentially, they'll have different workshops and speakers available all day at the library. A lot of these videos will also be virtual just for that day, though. So if you would like to watch or participate, go to citykyle.com/library, and you can find more information. But they will have light refreshments and freebie giveaways the whole day. You can find more information at the calendar page. And then their last but not least is the library trick-or-treat. It'll be on actual Halloween Day, Monday, October 31st from 2 to 7 p.m. Patrons can come to the library. They will have it decorated, and you will be able to get treats along their spooky trail through the library. But yeah, you can find more information about that on the calendar page as well.
All right, Mayor, Council, as part of my Team Kyle update, I'd like to ask Chief Barnett to come up and share with you a very special training he just came back from, as well as National Night Out.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks. Mayor and Council, my name is Jeff Barnett, Police Chief for the record. So of the two things, first, let me remind everybody that tomorrow is National Night Out. It's a very special day here in Kyle and across the state of Texas. As you may recall, other states tend to celebrate that in August, but in Texas, it's way too hot to do that in the afternoons. So the state of Texas has moved that to October, and they did that many years ago. The briefing, for those of you who are interested, and I believe we have a couple of council members and Civil Service Commission members that are going to ride out, is at 5:30 at the police department. We have roughly 10 or so parties scheduled right now, but we expect to receive a few more last-minute parties throughout the community tomorrow. If you don't have a party to go to, you can contact us at the police department, and we'll tell you where the nearest party's at, or you're always welcome to join us in our big downtown celebration, which is on the square. Most parties kick off at about 6 p.m., so a little bit before dark, and usually last about 2 hours. Again, the purpose is so that we can promote crime prevention and safety in the community throughout, and get to meet your police officers and elected officials and everybody, so it's a great night. The other one that Mr. Hendricks is allowing me to tell you about is a really good training program that I had the opportunity to attend a couple of weeks ago. This is an invitation-only leadership academy put on by the Department of Homeland Security. It's 2 weeks long. They fund your travel and your room and board, and they provide all the training for free, so there's no cost. But it was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity to spend 2 weeks with police chiefs and sheriffs from agencies across the United States. We had officers, command-level officers from the Mariana Islands, Guam, the Virgin Islands, New York PD, Seattle PD, and many in between that broad scope. But 2 weeks of great leadership with outstanding speakers. Very briefly, we had Lieutenant Colonel Alan West come and share some of his leadership principles with us, which was outstanding. We had one member of the fire department who was assigned to the mayor's office in New York and who was actually inside one of the towers when it collapsed. And he has an amazing story of survival, but also loss of his best friends and all that he went through. And then we had some true military heroes that were in some, what I would call unbelievable situations, were badly injured during combat, but survived. And their message was resiliency, and that translated to us as good leadership principles. So it was an honor to get to go to that invitation-only training. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
I just want to add that this was invitation only, and I think that just is further testament to the quality of our police department and its leadership and the recognition that we're getting for them. Thank you, Chief. Last, certainly not least, Finance Director Pervez Mohit for the record.
Mayor and Council, very briefly, I'd like to inform you that effective November 7th, which is a Monday, we will be implementing new office hours or new customer service window hours for the utility billing office and the municipal court.
Please don't. Every single one of us. All right, go ahead.
When is the effective?
When you said effective November 7th, we all were like, what are you about to?
Oh.
It's fine. We thought this was like the weirdest resignation of all time.
So these are the service windows that we have on the first floor of City Hall for our walk-in customers. So the new hours for the service windows will be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily, Monday through Friday. Our telephone customer service and online services will continue as before, No changes there. Customer service by phone will continue to be available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily, Monday through Friday. Online services will continue to be available on a 24-hour basis, 7 days a week. By changing the hours only by an hour in the morning and an hour right before closing, it will allow our utility billing staff and our court staff to count and reconcile opening cash balance and closing cash balance on a daily basis. It will help them organize daily workflow and service orders. It will allow them to check and follow up on customer emails that we receive on a daily basis and customer requests for services. It will allow them to check and return voicemails on a timely basis from our customers. And most importantly, it will also allow them to attend customer service trainings that we provide after hours. That's the only time we are able to do it. Now, by changing this by an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, we'll be able to provide them ongoing training on a weekly or monthly basis. And lastly, it will reduce the overtime cost for the City of Kyle, for the Finance Department. We will notify all our customers of the new hours by posting notices on the city's website, on our service windows. We will also inform our customers through the city's social media network and also include on the next utility billing. Thank you, Council. I didn't mean to give you all a different message.
FYI, for all the staff out there, don't start off with effective immediately, please, in the future.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Perez.
Can I make a comment?
Mayor,
Yeah, go
Council,
ahead.
that concludes my report.
Councilmember Parsley.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank the Parks and Rec Department for what they did with Mary Kyle Hartson Park. And the decorations that you have are beautiful. They're so pretty. I had to pull over before coming to City Hall and take a selfie there because it just looks wonderful. I really wanted to have a ginormous pumpkin, but what you guys did was phenomenal. So thank you so much.
All right. Okay, next up, agenda item number 9, presentation regarding evaluation of traffic conditions on Conestoga Drive from Old Stagecoach Road to Scott Street. Mr. Barba.
Give you a brief highlight of what I was doing with my study, but it looks like I was beaten to the punch on that one. So let's just go ahead and go through the options. I think they're still valid. And hopefully y'all got a chance to read the report that I put together. We talked about option 1, do nothing. That based on the information that I received, they didn't exceed the 85th percentile speed of 30 miles an hour. I think the last, based on the information that I received, it was about 29 miles an hour average. Just for those of you that don't know, 85th percentile means that 85% of the people on a roadway will drive, will be prudent and safe on how they drive. 15% will not. They will speed and do things that they're not supposed to do. So typically engineers design a road based on the 85th percentile. That's why we use that number. But on option 1, it's to do nothing. The speed limit is 30 miles an hour. The 85th percentile, based on the information I got, was 29 miles an hour. And again, there were no accidents or either vehicle or pedestrian accidents reported by our police department. Option 2 is reduce the speed limit from 30 to 25. Again, this doesn't guarantee the 85th percentile will go down or be reduced, but we could come back in a few months and do another speed study, see if it did have an impact. Option 3 is to install enhanced crossings, like you see there below. We could do this at both intersections. We have to be aware that we have driveways in there, so we have to be careful how we set up our devices. But we could come up with a plan. The engineering department could prepare a plan for striping and signs that we could put there, and we would work with the Public Works on what we would install there. Most of us don't like those delineators that are those posts because they get actually act like targets in some cases. So people try to hit those things. So I was thinking maybe using buttons or something like that. So, but I would work with Public Works to come up with a good plan for that. So that would be one way that we could try to possibly slow traffic down. Option 4 is to look at the always stop signs. You have to meet warrants to install always stop signs. There are several warrants that you have to meet. The biggest one, of course, is if you have 5 accidents within a year. That hasn't happened here, so that doesn't meet that warrant. You also, on your major streets, you have to have 300 vehicles an hour for 8-hour period during the day. That's not going to happen on this road. We don't have that kind of traffic. You also have to have 200 vehicles per day on the cross street, and obviously we're not going to have that in this particular road. They just don't have that much traffic going there to meet those warrants. There's other variations, and actually I have a presentation online that nobody really reads, but I have it's a frequently asked questions on stop signs, and we also present our program and how we look and manage whether we're going to put an always stops there. So it is on our engineering page, so if somebody wants to see that, really would like for you all to look at that once in a while. Sir, somebody please look at it.
I read it. You handed it to me.
Oh, thank you. Again, we do have the problem with the south side of the street. The driveways are kind of in the way on those intersections. So if we really wanted to put it, if it did meet warrants, we'd had the high pedestrian counts, we had high traffic counts. It would probably be best at 6-shooter because that's the least problematic. So if we did have to end up putting one there, that's where I would recommend we put one there. Option 5 is the speed humps or speed pillows. There's certain guidelines that you have to meet that I looked at, and based on all those guidelines that I looked at, this street would not even qualify for speed humps or speed pillows. So if we did try to do that, we would really need to develop some kind of policy. I did have a draft prepared at one time, but you need to be careful when you put those guidelines out, because if they don't meet, then the speed humps or the speed pillows will not go in. And I guess we'd be setting a precedent. We'd have to look at other intersections or other streets, and the request would start coming in, so we'd have to look at those very carefully. As far as staff recommendation, I would like to go with 3 with the possibility of doing 2, but I really wanted to get your input and let me know which direction you think that we need to move forward on this.
All right, does anybody have any questions, comments? Councilmember Florescale.
Okay, so for some reason I liked 4, but you're telling me we can't do 4. I'm looking at this stretch of road, and there's no way anyone's going to convince me that people are not speeding through here, whether we catch it or not. Do we know how long that is, that area? Is it like?
Oh, the length of it? Gosh, I measured it, I forgot.
About 2 city blocks.
About a couple of thousand feet, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing at that.
Okay. So if you're telling me we can't do the stop signs, I would be okay with doing option 3, which looks to be, painting and putting up a little bit of stop sign. I don't want to do anything too extreme just because I like the humps. I just feel like we could probably fix this issue with, in a smaller capacity. So I personally like 3. That's it.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, Leon, I think to try to address this quickly, I agree with Councilmember Kell. Let's try to get some striping out there, see what we can do. But really, what I want to do is make sure that we continue down the path of the speed pillows and identify areas. Councilmember Tobias and I, if we could set those meetings back up and they stop for a few minutes, let's make sure we get those back online, and let's get that ordinance done and identify areas that we need to address with the speed pillows as quickly as possible, because I drive all around the city, and people's driving habits have gotten really bad. On Scott Street and Stagecoach are 2 that I can really talk about because I see it daily as I'm driving home. It's a 100-mile-an-hour loop there. I've clocked people. I'm doing probably about 35, because 35 miles an hour through there, and they'll pass me like I'm parked. So they'll jump over the. Back in the day, we didn't have the double stripe lines, so they were passing constantly. The double stripe lines have actually helped a little bit. There's not as many people passing each other up. They're adhering to the lines, but we still have big speeders up and down those 2 roadways as well. And I think that's what's transitioning over into this neighborhood, is the people. It's even coming from Center Street. So they'll hit the stop sign at Center Street. By the time they get 2 or 3 blocks down, which is my house, they're already hitting speeds of 70, 80 miles an hour. I mean, it's really quick, and they're traveling southbound. So these have become 2 really fast corridors for people, and when they turn into the neighborhoods, they're not going to slow down. They're going to continue that speed. So a stop sign is just the places they take off really quickly from now. So anything we can do to address it would be great, but I'd really like to see the speed pillow study come back and out for us to continue to meet and get something in the books to implement them, please.
How about option 2 and 3?
That's possible. We could look at that.
So is it are they actually posted at 30 miles, or is it just that's the standard for interior streets?
That's a standard for interior streets.
So-
I don't know if it's actually a sign up, but that's a standard, what they call prima facie speed limit for local streets.
Right, so
yes.
if we made the decision to reduce it from 30 to 25, it would cause you to put up posted speed limit signs, which could have an impact, because right now there are no posted speed limits because it's just 30 for all interior streets.
That's correct.
So if we did option 2 and option 3, you're getting quite a bit of signage and notice, because I think what happens, at least sometime, if you don't assume people have ill intent, it can be the case. So the road's kind of nice and wide, and you get out there and you're not really paying that much attention. You're kind of just driving, and a sign, something reflective, something to catch your eye can remind you, hey, slow down, and maybe help to set. It won't impact it completely, but I think the combination of 2 and 3 would have an impact without setting precedent and forcing people to stop in front of someone's driveway all day, every day. So that would be my thoughts.
And I would like to do that also, just kind of later, if the police department would do a speed study, let's see if it really did work.
That would be interesting. Do you need direction from us to do that?
No, I'm fine. I have everything I need.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to go with 2 and 3 and get some information back to you,
Okay.
council. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next up, agenda item number 10, presentation regarding September 24th water outage in the Texas Water Utilities service area. This is sponsored by Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Flores Kale.
Yeah, Mayor, I just wanted to get an update from the utility to see what the protocols were with the way they notified the residents on the water leak, and how long it took them to get that out to the community. How long did it take it to get to the city staff, so we could put it on our web pages as well, and how long to identify and to rectify the problem?
Yeah, so we had a water leak, for those who don't know, pretty substantial one. So, Mr. Paez-Tabash, you want to?
Good evening. Will Paez-Tabash for the record, Emergency Management Coordinator. I believe the fellow, Mr. Williford from TWU, was unable to make it tonight due to some prior commitment. He did provide a timeline, which should have been emailed to everybody, along with my after-action report detailing what we knew on the city side. This leak began before 4:15 a.m. and was repaired by 3:30 p.m. In the interim, they attempted to divert staff from whatever it was they were doing to purchasing water, bringing it to our water distribution site with an estimated opening of 9 a.m. I arrived on scene at 8:30. There was some trouble procuring a truck, getting staff then to unload the truck so that it could be loaded with water. We wound up just buying it ourselves from HEB. I want to thank the Parks Department. I want to thank COP, Citizens on Patrol, because they jumped right in with assistance. Park vehicle was taken out to buy the first load of water, and then we wound up taking a trailer to buy 2 more pallets when the TWU's water had run out. They offered to pay for it. They have a check in the mail. We are being reimbursed for the full cost of this water. And they donated the remaining roughly pallet and a quarter, which is sitting at one of the park's facilities now. Now, were there any specific questions I can answer? Because they were not here to provide the presentation.
Yeah, really what I wanted to know is why it took them so long to get the information out to the residents. It started at 4:15. Residents probably weren't getting notified until about 10:30, 11 o'clock-ish. I felt like they did a really poor job in notifying the residents. Even when it came to the boil, after the leak was identified and they started getting pressure back on, they did a poor job of putting out the boiled water notice. So that was concerning for me as well. I got some feedback from the residents. They weren't very happy about not being notified on a timely manner. I think they could do better, and I hope they will do better in the future. So I would encourage them to really game plan and figure out what was going on and why the communication was lost. I know it was a weekend, I know it was early morning, but as a utility, you have to account for all that. I'm gonna tell you right now, I was very impressed with the city of Kyle. They did a great job, came out, they got the water, everything we needed. We were willing to assist, making sure that we are working together and that this utility is now communicating with the city and with its residents in a timely manner is what I'm concerned about, and making sure that this happens moving forward.
Okay, I can reach out to Mr. Williford to find out what the delay was in that initial notification. From the city side, actually, the water distribution was notified before we were even ready. They jumped the gun on that, so we had people lined up before water had even arrived.
I think the staff did a great job. I think the city staff rose to the occasion, and we've got a track record of that. We've, everything that's hit us in the last 2 years, the city has always stepped up, and the staff has been amazing and has always provided the resources that our residents need. With that being said, I want to make sure that all residents are taken care of in that same manner, whether it's the city or it's a utility, a private utility. I want to make sure that we hold that standard throughout the city of Kyle and making sure that all residents are treated equally.
Councilmember Tobias.
Yeah, real quick, for those who didn't know, it was actually affected the Amberwood and Indian Paintbrush area. The water stations were at Chapa Middle School. As soon as we were done with our board's commissions meeting, I went out there and I did see the city staff out there helping loading some of the bottled water for the residents. But Mayor Pro Tem hit a good point, because there was a lot of residents that woke up in the morning and didn't have any water pressure, didn't have anything come out. That's kind of why we implement these kind of critical incident programs, so that way we could be able to be upfront with the residents to let them know. And a lot of them were giving me estimated time, like how long is it going to take to fix? You know, I've got a cook, I've got, you know, a childcare in the business, you know, and so forth. I got people coming over for the weekend, it's the game, et cetera, et cetera. So I had pretty much had to go with whatever information that person gave me. But if we can continue to use these examples and improve on, especially from these water districts that we're going to be going, these like Monarch, whoever it was, we just need to continue to be more proactive and help in that end. And I understand about the water situation. It happened out of the blue, where we had to actually have to go to the store and buy them ourselves. I guess that raises another question. What if this was of a larger scale? What would have been the implemented plan then? If we actually had an entire neighborhood go out? Well, obviously it did, but for long periods of time, you know, what would be our long-term goal in operations for something like that to look at?
For a longer water outage, we do have, or HEB had this before y'all even hired me, they have agreed to donate a number of pallets of water to our community in the event of a sustained outage. Enough to sustain us until county resources can be brought in, and then 72 hours later, state resources would be brought in. And I have that planned out in WebEOC already.
Okay. As far as the city goes, we have a plan in place of like which department would be, you know, automatically dispatched to these areas for that?
Mariana currently has the copy of the mass care annex, which delineates the responsibilities. The Parks Department has the most personnel with the range of training required to sustain mass care operations, to include sheltering, to include distribution. So her staff would be initially relied upon, followed by the volunteers of the Community Emergency Response Team. And then if we ran out of personnel, then we'd have to start drawing on whoever else I can get, Public Works, PD, any other volunteers that we could step up and vet after that point.
And then we could also use the CERT team as well, correct?
Absolutely, they were number 2.
All right, great. Thank you. That's all I have, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else? Councilmember Forsco.
Thank you. So my concern is the residents didn't get notification and they didn't get constant communication. I don't know if that fault lies with Monarch or with us, but at the end of the day, they are Kyle residents, and I think as such, we need to make sure we're communicating with them, even if it's double communication, us and Monarch, because I had people texting and they were like, what's going on? When am I going to get my water? And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, luckily, Jerry did an amazing job keeping us as council members updated as much as possible. But it wasn't us that was affected. It was the residents. And so it's important that we make sure that, first and foremost, they're staying informed as much as possible. So that's really it. I do want to give a thanks to Parks and Rec. I know, but they were at the squeeze box and they sent some employees out there. So if nothing else, I can say that always Kyle has a consistency to bond, come together and to get things done. My fear is just, what if it were city issues and Monarch issues? How do we take our staff and divide it accordingly to make sure that our residents are taken care of? So if that's something else that we can kind of devise a plan for, because we do have several, I know we have Monarch, we might have a couple more other utilities that are separate from the city. So that would be nice to see something in that event. I hope it never happens, but I'd rather be prepared than trying to figure it out at the time. So, but thank you guys. Thanks staff, and especially to Jerry. We got a lot of emails. I was like, poor Jerry's updating us as much as possible. So I appreciate it.
Sorry I called you so early in the morning.
That's okay, somebody had to. I just want to add, when it comes to water outages for one of our investor-owned utility service areas, we walk a fine line in how we help communicate that, because if it starts coming from the city, then areas that aren't effective start thinking that they are. So as soon as we get the notification that there's an outage in one of those areas, we work, as we did this past time, with the utility to make sure that they're notifying their customers. And if there's additional supplemental responses that we need to help facilitate, we'll do that. But we want to make sure that the communications are coming from the proper people to the proper people.
Do we have, I'm sorry, do we have statutory authority to pass an ordinance requiring utilities to notify residents who are experiencing an outage within, say, a certain amount of time? Like, do we actually have any kind of enforcement ability as it relates to utility providers to provide said notice?
I lean on Barbara for that a little bit, but I don't think so, because they're regulated by the state.
Unless you have some sort of a contract with them, which, in this case you may, if there's an agreement with them, you might want to put something like that in the agreement. But there's not something statutorily. If it's going to be out for, there's really not anything for the period of time that it was out. If it was going to be for an extended period of time, then there is a requirement that they notify for something that they can foresee. If it's an emergency sort of situation, there's not really in that sense.
So just real quick, my concern was, so I was concerned about the break and not notifying that in a timely manner, but really my biggest concern was the break itself when they started getting flow back on, not issuing a water notice. I'm worried about the residents that were consuming that water. That's where I really got concerned, was with that notice being so late. They were already getting flow back, and that notice still hadn't been released, so people didn't realize that they had to boil the water in order to consume it, cook with it, or whatever you're doing with it. So yeah, I guess that's what was most concerning to me as a council member.
I do have a timeline that I received from them earlier today that I'll forward to you guys for your own review. I don't know where the boil water notice came in terms of getting flow restored, but I know that it was in advance of the pipe being fully repaired.
Well, so do we have our own policies for when we issue boil water notices?
Yes, Tim can respond in more detail, but we follow the rules established by the state.
And so are we saying that they did not follow the rules by issuing it within the correct amount of time?
I believe that they were within the rules.
That'd be a legal question. I have no idea. Oh.
So, good evening, Mayor and Council. Tim Sanford for the record. So per TCEQ, which is our regulatory authority, they have 24 hours to provide notification to their residents if a boil water notice were to be issued. For the city of Kyle, we have our own standards we hold for ourselves, and that is as soon as possible. We don't want to be in a situation to where we're pushing that water out, and it could potentially have contaminants that could be harmful to anybody, and nobody be made aware of it.
So my thinking there was just, we just negotiated the new Monarch water rates, and so there was an opportunity potentially for us to interject a requirement that they would have to agree to in order to, and I don't know if that's something that we could potentially negotiate, but as it relates to utility negotiations, we might want to take a look at making sure that all of our utility providers, private, whether it's water or natural gas, because we have a lot of natural gas line breaks and things like that, are considering the same standard, or are following the same standard that we have. And then also potentially some rules about notifying the city, you know, because they not only need to notify their customers, but if there's an issue that requires city mobilization, they need to be required to notify the city within a certain amount of time. So I don't know exactly how we could go about finding where we could insert that into legal agreements that give us enforcement ability, but that would be
We'll begin looking into that. We'll also reach out to those utilities, make sure we have current, up-to-date contact information for them and that they have the same for us, and what our expectations are.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Thank you, Tim. All right, next up, CIP, road projects, and consent agenda presentation. Mr. Barba.
La Verde Park, 68% complete. Playground equipment is nearing completion. Sidewalks and hardscaping is ongoing. Irrigation installation is in progress, and they're installing curbs for the playground. The footer at the North Amphitheater is in progress. Decking, roofing, and plumbing at the pavilion structure is in progress, and they're continuing on the electrical roughing at the concrete masonry unit there at the pavilion restrooms. The revised projected substantial completion date is December 1st of 2022. Councilmember Flores-Kelly, you asked about the original date. I think that we were planning on this one, and what I found out, it was June of 2022. Public Safety Center, 61% complete. Air handler units have been set. Chill water piping has been installed from the chillers to the building. They're taping and floating level 1, painting electrical and mechanical rooms, and they're working on the lightweight cast stone cornice at the west end of the building. The filled brick masonry is at the east side of the building. The rooftop HVAC units have been set in place, and substantial completion date is February 6, 2023. Southside wastewater improvement projects, based on the pay estimates, we're still at that 94% complete, but we just have their pay application. We're still reviewing that. We've completed our force main for the project, and we're still having to install that 15-inch gravity main that goes to the lift station. Prior to reaching Edwards Drive, we did encounter some really unstable materials. As they were digging, it was just falling apart beside the trench boxes, and so we had to add some more stabilized sand in there to make sure that we got a good backfill on that project. Then we got to Edwards Drive. We were afraid that we were going to have to do a bore because of the conditions that we just encountered, but it was pretty stable and solid, so we didn't have to do a bore, which would have been more expensive. We're still working at a slower pace. We're concerned about the worker safety, and the good news is that I'm 150 feet away from closing the gap on that section there, so that's good news. Oops. There's a picture on the left of what, beside the trench box, you can see where the material was just caving in on the side, and we ended up putting some better material back in there. And Edwards Drive is on the right. We were able to just open trench that one and place the pipe in that one. Treatment expansion project, the dewatering facility is about 85% complete. The Bullseye Plant number 2 startup began on September 26th. Just got word this afternoon that it's operating already, so we're done with that. They are working on the plant number 1 Bullseye, and that's being taken offline so they can clean that and do some repairs in that one. The dewatering facility completion has been pushed to October 2022. PEC is now working on providing the electrical power to that facility starting tomorrow. And they're continuing to work on those roads in the plant site, and we're also installing some security fencing. Elliott Branch Interceptor, we're about 74% complete. Again, we have another pay application we're reviewing now. Still having our road closures. Sled Street reconstruction has started, and all densities have passed on our base material. The curb is being placed and poured there at 3rd of Meyer Street, and we still get some customer concerns, and we're responding as quickly as we can to those. Downtown relocation of overhead lines. Spectrum did send us a letter They're requesting payment for some of the relocation work that we're doing. Typically, when you have a utility in the way, you will, and if you're going to widen the street or do some construction, they have to move at their own cost. But in this particular case, it's a beautification project, so we're going to have to end up paying Spectrum. We're anticipating a little over $25,000 request on that. We're planning to bring that back to council at the next meeting. Frontier is working on the conduit, and they're working on relocating. Old Post Road, they're continuing to pave. Went by there today. They're still doing some paving. They're hoping to have the paving completed on that first layer of mix. We still have one more 2-inch layer that's going to have to go down, but that's going to be later after we complete our drainage work on the project. And we're probably looking about a couple more months on this project. Indian Paintbrush Lift Station, they're starting to, we're about 13% complete. As you can see, they're getting the rebar and the wet well that's going to be going in there, and they're starting to get that ready to pour concrete.
That's a crazy picture.
It's a lot of steel and a lot of concrete.
Just the way they prop it all up with the wood into its side. Yeah, it looks like a playground. Sorry.
We had 2 consent agenda items. They're both on second reading. One is the speed zone reduction on 1626, and the other one is no through trucks there on South Street from Front Street to Business 81. Questions?
Any questions for Mr. Barba? Councilor Flores-Kell.
Okay, I don't know if this is something that you do, but I've had a lot of people ask for an update on Jack's Axis, and then the one right beside it. So the building is such an eyesore, and I'm wondering what it's going to take in order for it to be at least leveled.
I think Jerry's on top of that
Jerry?
one.
Yes, we've been talking with Greg Henry, the owner of Papa Jack's. He's agreed to allow, sorry?
Well, just if there are discussions that, just make sure that we don't want to compromise our position on anything.
I understand.
Right, okay.
And we're working with him on a plan to be able to demolish what's remaining there. What we're trying to work through is a lot of the debris maybe holding up walls. So we don't want to go remove the debris and then have the walls fall on our workers. But we're working on it. We should have resolved here shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry, since we're on the subject, that middle wall has a lot of historic value. If there's a way of preserving some of that stone, and maybe somewhere in the city we could put something up to honor that wall, would be great, because that's one of our first buildings in our city.
I think we can accommodate that.
If you could figure something out, I'd really appreciate it. Just has a lot of meaning to me and the original residents here in Kyle, so if there's something we could do, it'd probably be
I
great.
think we can accommodate that.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, anyone else? All right, next up, consent agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to pull any item? Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve consent agendas 12 through 18.
Second.
All right, it's motion by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Kell that we approve the consent agenda as posted. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilmember Parsley.
I would like to take agenda item number 12 for discussion.
Okay. Did you just have questions? You could ask them right now. If you'd
Yes,
like.
I can ask.
Go ahead.
So I would like to see if we got any bids for any other equipment with same specifications from any other company like Bobcat or John Deere. I just found kind of different pricing for this zero-turn mower, and so I would like to know if we got any bids for anything else or any other pricing for.
So Tim Sanford for the record again. So this purchase is made through Buy Board. The city of Kyle is a member of Buy Board, and through that process, we are allowed to use their contracts they have in place and to make purchases such as these. If you need a more of an answer than that, then I would ask Pervez to come up and answer that.
Councilmember, the Buy Board that we are a member of is a co-op, and they take bids. They go out and take bids on different types of things, and lawnmower equipment is one of them. So they have gone through the bidding process, the price selection process, the quality control process. and they have selected various vendors. So this allows cities and counties to save time and go through their contract and piggyback on that. So you're getting the benefit of the same bidding process and procurement process that we would have done on our own.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Flores-Kell.
I don't have any questions for you. I just want to say this consent agenda was very well written, and I appreciate it. I do like the fact that it says that what we previously voted, but knowing that some things are bought on by board, maybe we can add that as well, so it'll make consent time even faster. But other than that, it was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries 5-0. Next up, agenda item number 19, consideration and approval of applying for the Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing. What did I say? I said 5-0. I wrote 5-0. Sorry. Consent agenda passed 6-0 for the record. Thank you. And I'm going to actually, so that we can all discuss this before we move, I'm going to say right now, the way I have it marked is that items that we are pulling and postponing off this agenda are items number 21. Is that correct, David?
Yes.
And then 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32. Yes.
I would like to request for item 35 to be postponed, please.
Okay. Are there any other items? All right. Well, that'll save us a little time. All right, next up, agenda 19, consideration and approval of applying for the Strengthening Mobility and Revolutionizing Transportation Grant Program, SMART, Phase 1 of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Mr. Amsler.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. David Amsler, Management Analyst for the record. I am asking this body to approve us applying for this grant. This grant is a no-match grant. It is reimbursable. This first phase is a prototype phase / planning phase. It is the intention of the city to use this grant on the Vibe Trail for smart crossings and smart scooters, golf carts to where they're communicating with one another, as well as potentially elevating some of the police lighting that we do to use Wi-Fi hotspots. We are still in the planning phase, but we came to you guys a little early so that Honeywell can push forward to be aggressive in pursuing this grant. Because it is a no match, it's very competitive. There are going to be lots of cities that pursue this grant. This stage is going to be almost necessary for us to get phase 2, which is an additional 15 million, which also will have no match when that NOFO comes out. I am available for any questions. If you have questions on the technology, Kirk, who is a representative of Honeywell, is on Reigns Central.
All right, thank you, David. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Flores-Kell.
I just have a quick question. Is this the same Honeywell that we've been talking about for like 2 years? I am so excited about this. I have inadvertently left my water on several times.
That was Kirk.
I mean, it feels like a lifetime to us, and I cannot get this implemented soon enough. I think it's a great, I think it's gonna be software, and this is only gonna be good for the city. And so if what you guys are asking for is permission
to pursue the grant.
Yeah, why would we ever say no? I know, I'm sorry that you have to ask. I would like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 19.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Flores-Kell, seconded by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I just want to thank Honeywell for their patience and for pursuing this grant for us. Very excited about it. They've got a really good team that's going to be working on this grant process, and I think it's a very big win for our city if we get it. So I wish you all the best.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, Councilmember Tobias.
So you're saying scooters as well? You're okay with that, Mayor Pro Tem?
If we have the infrastructure to support it, right now we don't.
All right, sir. Yeah, yeah.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0 for scooters. All right, no, I'm just kidding. Next up, agenda item number 20, consideration and possible action to approve core office interiors quotes for FF&E and Public Safety Center in an amount not to exceed $1.582781 million and 60 cents. That was a weird way of saying that number, sorry. Mr. Farmer.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As you all would recall, late last spring, we put out a request for qualifications for a furniture vendor. And a furniture vendor is a firm that would come in and help us plan every single space in the building to specify the furniture, to procure it, and install it and clean it up. So Core Office Interiors was selected last spring because of their experience with similar type buildings, including San Marcos. So we're at that stage now where we need to gain council approval on the price that allows them to go ahead with the purchase and schedule the installation to be part of the schedule for opening the building. We typically budget between 4 and 6% of the construction costs for FF&E items, and this falls right in that range. So we're okay with where it is. We have the money, it's budgeted. It was a long process, many meetings. Staff was involved, a lot of in-face, showroom visits. It's a big building, a lot of furniture. So that's what we're asking for tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. Farmer. Any questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I have one. So when we were touring the other police departments, one thing that they made clear was making sure that we had furniture that would work with the officers as far as their duty belts, stuff like that, making sure we don't have the rails. Did we do all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just
Yes,
making sure.
That was a subject at every meeting we had.
Okay, yeah, because I know I brought it early on. I just wanted to make sure that we followed through with it and made sure that we make this facility and the furniture in it amenable to the officers. And if we did that process, I'm good with it. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a very high quality level of furniture designed to be durable and to meet the needs of the police department.
And with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda item.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kelly. We approve agenda item 20. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilmember Tobias.
Yes, sir. As we know, office furniture through the years or through time, they get wear and tear. Will any of these have any form of a warranty? Or if something in a matter of a year or two, we need to get them replaced, what kind of system will be in place, a process, to where we get the same type of quality furniture? Or if we're going to have to replace a specific office with furniture, is it going to be something that later on we're going to have to pay a specific type of difference? Or when they do break, what do we do with them after they, let's say an armchair break, or the arm breaks, or the wheels come off? Because it happens because you're constantly using it.
Yes, sir. That's one of the advantages of having a vendor like Core Interiors. They'll be responsible for that warranty period. So all we'll have to do is contact them after the warranty expires, and it'd be the city, however the city operates with replacement of furniture. But at least through the warranty period, Core will take care of all that replacement, the installation as well.
Okay, that's good. Councilmember Parsley.
I just wanted to say that I was so excited when you said that it's within budget, because I was thinking, please don't ask for a budget amendment for this, because it will make me cry. So thank you.
I like seeing
That's all.
that too.
Yeah, I was looking at you and I'm like, please don't come and tell me that.
Councilmember Flores Kelly.
Okay, I seconded this motion, but I'm gonna tell you, there are some prices on here that are ridiculous. And so I need some kind of, hey, it's gonna be worth it, because I'm looking at a side chair, and maybe I don't know what a side chair is, but it is $1,253. I am also looking at bar stools that are $700. That is, and I get we're in budget, and I get we have the money. What I don't get is, do we really need to spend that much? And I love my officers. I want to make sure they're comfortable. But I also want to be fiscally responsible. I want to make sure that we're not overspending because we have it, if that makes sense. And one of my questions was, who picked this stuff out? Because I was gonna have a long talk with Chief Barnett if it was him. But you're saying there was a furniture vendor?
It's a furniture vendor, Chief, I don't know if you want to address that, but staff was involved and each department was involved with the vendor, looking at all kinds of options of furniture. And it is commercial grade furniture as well.
That's the commercial grade.
Yes. I get that.
Yeah, you bet. Jeff Barnett, Chief of Police for the record. So we did site visits to 2 different showroom floors. We did numerous online reviews of different furniture and looked for something that would be of quality to withstand 24-hour operation from police officers that wear heavy gear to address the question about will this fit the officers. Some of these are oversized chairs. Some of these are removable handle and different things that we might want to do to accommodate larger, taller officers with gun belts. Looking for long-standing quality, something that would last the department for a number of years. Easy to clean was important to us too, because there will be a large volume of traffic in the building. All of those things, along with a national standard. They had a good reputation, something that they would honor their quality of their work. You discussed the warranty. Within days, they'll be here with the replacement parts and they'll fix them themselves. All we've got to do is put in that phone call. So there were a variety of things that went in there. There were a good number of people that were involved in the site visits and the online meetings as well. We looked at probably 10 to 15 different national brands so that we could find both the pricing and the right furniture that we needed, the right fit for our police facility, and also something that matched the quality of the facility that you're building. So we tried to put all that into a package and made sure that we have a price before you that we will not exceed.
Okay, so I guess my question is, where's the warranty information going to be maintained? I would like that to be within the city in case if something
Sure.
changes, and I want to make sure we can go to somebody in the police department and say, hey, this $1,200 chair broke. We want to make sure we have the that's going to be kind of a big responsibility.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys want to do a spreadsheet or something that's going to make it easy in case, even if our admin has to go through it, that we can access that information.
Sure.
Just because I feel like that's a lot of money, and I want to make sure we're making the most out of that warranty.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We're going to want to be able to find that quickly and make sure that we have every vendor, every product manufacturer, we have their warranty easy to find, and the company knows exactly what we expect.
And just to add to that, Tim with facilities should have a copy of that contract as well,
Sure.
since he's going to be responsible for a lot of the facility maintenance, him and his team.
Councilmember Parsley.
Go ahead.
No, you have your hand up.
Okay. Real quick, I won't take too long. What I think you're getting at, Ms. Flores-Kale, is having an asset tag kind of system set up to where you would have the tags listed as far as like this belongs to the Public Safety Center, this asset tag belongs to the chair within this, it fits under line item, whatever, so forth. So if there's ever any kind of furniture that's broken or a chair, we can be able to look up that asset tag, find it here on the warranty, and then have it to where you could be able to notify the vendor and say, according to this asset tag number, it is this product number, it is this specific design, this is what the original cost was, and here's the warranty. That way it all stays within that region.
Okay. Understood.
Councilmember Parsley.
Councilmember Tobias kind of addressed what I was going to bring up, so thank you.
All right, any other discussion?
Just
Councilmember
real quick, do
Flores-Kale.
we know what the warranty time is?
So it varies. As you'll notice through here, this is obviously a lot of pages, you'll see that we have different manufacturers. Each manufacturer has a different warranty. However, Core is going to honor everything for 12 months without any question whatsoever. Some of the vendors are going to be a little bit longer than that. Some of the different types of furniture may be 5 years. They will support that for the entire length of the manufacturer's warranty as well. They even told me so much as if there's a loose arm on a chair on the last day or the next to the last day of your warranty period, if you call us, we're going to come and take care of you and keep you as a happy customer and make sure your chair gets replaced as we should do. So they were very, very clear that having a product that is as good at the end of the warranty period as it is on the day they deliver it is very important.
No, I appreciate that. So we need to make sure on the 5th year, the last day, we loosen all the arms and we get new ones.
So the great news is they have,
Just kidding.
they happen to be, although we selected this company from a long list of companies that were well qualified.
She says on the record.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I can really appreciate a good warranty and good, strong product. I was just looking at the prices and I was really nervous about it. So
I think that'd be very
I do
fair.
appreciate good customer service.
I will make a quick comment. Until you start working from home, you don't realize how expensive a chair is. I've gone through 3 chairs until I finally had to spend the money.
Spend the money, okay.
And a good
Well,
chair, so.
congratulations.
And they're in
I'm
San
gonna love this
Antonio and
movie.
Austin, and they're all the time. They're in here, as you heard earlier, they performed work at San Marcos. And our police facility is much similar to the New Braunfels Police Department. They also outfitted their entire police department. So they're in the region, they're close, they can be here within a couple of hours, and they agreed to do so.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries 6-0. We're going to move to agenda item number 22. Consideration and possible action to approve marathon fitness quote for gym equipment at Public Safety Center in an amount not to exceed $91,503.68. Mr. Harding.
Mayor and Council, thanks for having us. Similarly, we have our last quote tonight is for Marathon Fitness to provide gym equipment for the Public Safety Center. As you said, in an amount $91,503.68 not to exceed. Similarly, they have a limited, well, they have a 1 year and then in some cases even a 3 year, and then some of the specific equipment manufacturers have longer warranties as well, very similar to what you're dealing with the FF&E package. And again, this is for gym equipment, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Harding? Motions? Councilor Tobias?
So we're now talking about the fitness equipment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're saying for a 20-pound dumbbell pair, it's $228 for one?
You'll actually be surprised. So again, when you're dealing with commercial grade products, it's just a completely different animal. You can go to a Dick's Sporting Goods and buy a dumbbell. And I know that this stuff sounds confusing because you look at these and you're like, well, I can go buy a dumbbell on Amazon for X amount of dollars. But again, this is stuff that's meant to take a serious beating. This is not something you're going to be using from home. This is something that's seriously rubber reinforced and just meant to be used multiple times a day, every single day, and last you for a very long time.
Yeah, I can understand the concept, or we have them. I know they're up there in $1,100, $1,200 range, but it just, when I saw the dumbbell pricing, especially for the 15-pounder, that's $228 for the pair, the 20-pounder. It just kind of.
Watching Chief lift it will be priceless.
There you go.
So I know that gyms throughout the area that are quality gyms buy the same kind of equipment. It's equipment that's made to last all day, wear and tear, multiple use, multiple people throughout the day. So I know that it's going to be a little expensive when you're buying quality, and that's what it is. You're buying quality, something you won't have to replace after 6 months of wear and tear. So
Yes, sir.
I know that's what we're looking at. The other thing is safety. A lot of this equipment is going to be built. The flooring that we have throughout the building, you want to make sure you're protecting that. The pads, there's a lot that goes in play. I know we've got a gym in one of our buildings in the company I work for, but definitely I know what goes on behind the scenes and what it takes to put quality equipment in place. Definitely, but we did stay under budget, right?
We are within budget, absolutely.
Cool.
Yes, we are.
Right,
I would also like access to this gym once it's built, please.
Motions?
With that being said, I'd like to approve agenda item number 22.
A motion by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Bradshaw, that we approve agenda item number 22. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilmember Florescale.
Is there any way we can just get quotes on other ones? That seems a lot. That seems a lot for the dumbbells. And I really hope our officers don't throw stuff, I hope they are a little more respectful of that.
Jeff Barnett, Chief of Police for the record. So this is a buy board member, so their buy board pricing has already gone out for quote against all of their competitors supplying similar product. So they've actually already done that. I'll add that this is public gym quality, membership gym type of equipment. It is the heavy duty stuff that will last. We want this stuff to last 20 years in this 20-year police department. So we got the stuff that we believe will last, and it's the best quality you're going to find out there when you go to a gym and you're going to pay a premium membership. So to just add that, but yes, I just wanted to mention they are by board, so it's already been vetted against its other competitors.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries 6-0. Next up is agenda items 23 and 24. It's related to the portable traffic signals. Are we ready to take this item up? Well, so the reason I'm asking is because the reimbursement agreement, which is agenda item number 24, it's really something that I think now that we've started the traffic study, there is some time that we have to wait for that, and that traffic study should complete right around the time that we know the outcome of our bond, which would kind of has potential to impact the size and scope of what we're doing here with these portable signals. So my request was going to be to allow the traffic study to move forward, allow for the bond vote to come forward, and then bring this up in the second meeting of November to discuss again. All right, I'm going to actually do it as a motion. I'd like to make a motion to postpone agenda items 23 and 24 until the second regularly scheduled meeting in November.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Mayor. That was a good suggestion.
All right, next up is agenda item number 25, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, amending Chapter 53 of the Code of Ordinances by amending Article 7, nonconforming uses and structures. Mr. Atkinson.
At the last meeting, Will Atkinson, Director of Planning, at the last meeting, City Council asked for a few amendments to the legal nonconformity ordinance that y'all are considering, and we have accounted for those in this update. The biggest ones being restrictions and allowances for residential legally nonconforming structures and uses from an increase in percentage and also from where you can put them in a commercial area as well. And we want to make it just a little bit more robust. So.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Flores Kale.
Thank you. And thank you for the ordinance. I was reading, I just really have two questions. One is section 53-1140. When you guys are talking about legal establishment, it states non-conforming uses and structures must have been legally established to be recognized as a legal non-conforming use. So how does the city legally establish that it's non-conforming? I guess I'm just curious what that process looks like. I don't know, I didn't know if you guys sent a certified letter.
Which section are you looking at specifically?
Section 53-1140, restriction on non-conforming uses and structures. Number 1, legal establishment. Let me see. It's on the second page.
So under section 53-1141, I have non-conforming uses, A1.
Correct, well, yes, it says legal establishment, and then it says non-conforming uses and structures must have been legally established to be recognized as a legal non-conforming use. So how does the city legally establish that it's non-conforming? Do they send notification to the homeowner?
I cannot find where you're reading in 11-140.
I don't know, it's what they gave me. Am I not looking at the right? We're doing agenda item 25, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me go back. I printed it off, and so I guess I'm not, let me see.
Councilmember Flores Kell, are you referring to section 53-1138, the rights of property owners who have lawfully established?
I don't know why what I have is different than what's online.
So you're saying 139, section 1, when necessary, preserve property established prior to the date of ordinance?
No.
No, she has something different.
I have something completely different, which printed off, and it has the red lines on it too. This one doesn't have it. Okay, so let me look for it real quick, because it's under legal establishment. Let me see if I can find that. Establishment.
Yeah, I tried to control find it. I couldn't find it.
11430 restriction on non-conforming.
To be lawfully established would have meant that they would have already been using the structures.
Share your mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. To be lawfully established would have meant that they would have already been using the property or the structure in a lawful manner prior to when maybe the city council changed the zoning that would have impacted the property. And so it was lawful prior to, and then
Right.
would continue to be a lawful, non-conforming use of the property.
That's just the definition of legal nonconforming.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Well, my
If it
only
was- if
concern
it-
is I want to make sure the resident is aware and knows that they're legally not conforming, because a lot of people don't understand or don't come to these meetings. So I want to make sure if something gets rezoned, that there's notification to the resident so they're aware, because they only have 12 months to, I think even if they want to file like an extension, they have to do that within 12 months as well. So if we did happen to rezone, how do we notify homeowners?
With the most up-to-date Haze Cat Appraisal District data that's out there. And so whenever we're doing a rezoning, let me say this, let me backtrack. Most of the time when a rezoning is happening, it is at the behest of the landowner or someone on their behalf. So they are aware of those items. And that when in those discussions, we talk to them about, hey, just be aware if you get your rezoning, there's a chance that your current use will become legally non-conforming. If the city is going to be pursuing a rezoning, then we will have those opportunities to talk with the residents as well. And we can make sure that if in any letters that we send out that we can add to those letters, that we say, hey, well, in a little bit more polite manner, we'll just let them know that there's a chance that your property may become legally non-conforming.
At the very least, we would comply with all notice requirements of the state, which is 200 feet of all owners within 200 feet of the impacted property will receive written notification, and then we have our signs out. And so that would be at the very least, but if, like Will said, we would definitely reach out to those owners.
Okay, that was my only concern, is just making sure that people understand that they're in non-conforming.
Sure.
Because I think that's kind of the issue that we had last time, and then we had to figure out and establish non-conforming, and so I'm just trying to avoid that. And luckily, I think it's really just in the downtown. It's not an extended area, so.
It is most prevalent in Central Kyle, in the original part of town.
Okay, well, with that said, sorry, I was gonna make a motion.
Then go. Yes, I'll shut up.
No, I wanted to make a motion to approve agenda item number 25.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Rizzo, that we approve agenda item number 25. Is there discussion on the motion? Yes, Barbara.
I wanted to, thank you, Jerry. I wanted to let you know, under section 5 of at the very last, page 6 of 7, I believe it is, there was a holder for a savings clause. Let you have time to look at that. I believe the version that you were sent had a placeholder for savings clause, and it just was blank. Maybe?
That's accurate on
Page
Page
6?
6.
Okay. And, the add savings clause?
Yes.
Okay.
The language for the savings clause is going to be as follows. All rights and remedies of the city of Kyle are expressly saved as to any and all violations of the provisions of any ordinances governing zoning within the city which have accrued at the time of the effective date of this ordinance, and as to such accrued violations and all pending litigation, both civil and criminal, whether pending in court or not, under such ordinances, same shall not be affected by this ordinance, but may be prosecuted until final disposition by the courts. Apologize in the hurry to get this back out. We did not get that in, but I wanted to let you know that that is now in the version that you would be adopting.
Could you tell us what that means?
Basically, you're just preserving your right to, that if there's something that's already outstanding, that you're preserving that. That you're, in other words, the city is reserving and preserving all of its rights and remedies despite something being changed, if it's necessary to.
Okay, so I guess my question would be for those homeowners currently on Center Street, how is that clause going to affect them?
Well, if there was something that was already pending as to them, I mean, it's a standard clause that's in virtually every ordinance that you pass to preserve for the city. But if say they had a violation that was pending, that doesn't impact that violation. Changing the ordinance doesn't necessarily impact that violation that's already out there. In other words, the city is preserving that right to proceed forward with that violation.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's all.
So my concern with that is, it's a violation because there was a different ordinance in place. Now that we're changing the ordinance, would that change that violation?
No, because on the day that it was noted as a violation, it was against the ordinance that was in place.
That was in place at the time.
Right.
But now that we're changing the ordinance, now it wouldn't help them if they had.
I don't know whether it would or not. I'm just, the provision, the savings clause provision is just one that it gives notice to everyone through the passage of this that if you have a violation and it's outstanding, no matter what it is, maybe it's not even addressed by a modification to the ordinance or an amendment to the ordinance. Whatever that violation might be, it's not saved by a provision passed by a subsequent amendment. You might want to, the individual who owns the home might want to, bring it forward and say, well, see, they changed it here. It was clearly wrong. Well, no, on the day that you received your violation, it may not have been. It should not be, I don't want this to be a stumbling block. This is something that is in all of your ordinances when they get passed.
I understand it's in all our ordinances. I'm just wondering what the ramifications of this would be. Because the reason that we're changing the ordinance is to make sure that people that lived in in some of the overlays now have the opportunity that have been in there, that were grandfathered in, but then the ordinance changed while they were in the home, right? And now we're trying to give them that authority back to be able to add to their homes if they need to, or to do improvements. What I'm worried about is
if they have any of them had violations noted?
I don't know. I can't answer that because I personally don't know if they've got a violation noted.
Do we have the ability to, if a conflict came up, to take action to remedy the situation?
Grant a variance?
Yeah, we're thinking about like maybe one or two specific examples here.
There's ways that through your zoning that you could potentially address that through either some sort of a variance or an exception to that.
So in other words,
you're not going to have like 6 that are all because of the non-conforming, you're not going to have that.
So my biggest concern was, and I understand what you're saying, but my biggest concern was that, we've got some homes here in the Kyle that have been forever grandfathered in. There was an overlay put in by a previous council, not this council, make that clear, that didn't allow those homes for people to stay in those homes, expand, maybe put a shed, something like that they needed, like you do in most residential housing that you have. If somebody were to put in a shed and then they got a violation for it because, hey, they didn't realize that they were in this non-conforming area, now seeing them get punished for that, because at the time, the reason we're rectifying is to make sure that they can put that shed in. I don't want them to have, pull that shed out and then bring it back with a permit. That's what I'm trying to avoid right now. But if there's a way to rectify that through the council, then I'm good with it.
Again, this would only implicate somebody who actually has a pending violation.
Because that could be a pending violation. They could have a shed there that wasn't allowed in the use, and now they're in trouble for it. Now that we're changing the ordinance, they'd have to pay that violation.
I think, put this in layman terms, because that's what I am as a layman, is right now today, anybody that has a violation, this clause allows that violation to stand, and it's up to us to determine how that's resolved from there. If there's no existing violation, it's not affected by this clause.
And I'm understanding that.
That's his point. What he's saying is that if we have someone who has a violation, that we're attempting for doing something with their home that this is designed to resolve, we're wanting to make sure that that homeowner is able to be free of this and move forward. That's the whole point of this, the whole point of the ordinance.
Understand, is this, if there were a violation, it would have had to have been cited to them. It's not just something that's a violation and not cited. In other words, if code enforcement has gone out there and cited that, hey, you have this violation and it's currently pending.
Correct.
Those would be the ones that we would have to take another look at and do something with. If they were not already cited, and it just, if somebody were to go out to those houses and look around, they might see that there was a violation. But they haven't done anything about it.
Right, we
understand that.
Yeah.
We understand that.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying, I'm not code enforcement. I don't know what pending violations are out there, if there's any, but I'm trying to make sure that if there's some out there and we're trying to fix this, making sure as a city, we're not heavy-handed and trying to enforce something that now we're changing. And that's my whole concern right now. But if there's a way for council or the city to rectify that, if we pass this, then I'd be okay with it. I just want to make sure that there's a process that somebody that has a current code violation right now that I'm not aware of, because I'm not code, to make sure that they can go through this process and not be penalized when we're trying to fix the ordinance.
The
Yeah, we could probably do that just by removing it. Because I don't think section 5 is necessary, since it's only going to be applicable to less than probably 5 people. So I don't know if adding the savings clause is necessary, and I understand that that savings clause is in probably all of our other ordinances. I'm just questioning, does it need to be in this one? Because the whole reason why we created this ordinance was for section 5. So I'm okay taking it out, because it's not going to affect enough people for us to sit here and continue to debate it back and forth.
Well, my recommendation was going to be to leave it because it is such standard language for an ordinance, but to, in the motion, to direct staff to bring back options for an exception if that rule is applied, that council it's brought up to council essentially, so that we're the ones, we put eyes on it if it happens, if it becomes an issue. We have a very specific outcome we're trying to achieve here. I don't want to legally mess with our ordinance, but we want to make sure that we accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. I think about our parking ticket.
Yeah,
issue.
I think leaving it is probably wise, because there could be something non-conforming out there that's really bad that this ordinance could be, rectifying for that person. They built some horrible structure out there or something. So leaving it is fine, as long as that we have an outlet, like you said.
Right. So we want council to be the ones to get a chance to look at whatever the issue is. So I don't know if that.
The ordinance itself was never intended, the language that was in the body of the ordinance, that section 5 is just one of those that, it's kind of a form, but at the body, I looked at the body, and you have a lot of that addressed, all of the non-conforming aspects of it addressed in there. The actual body of the ordinance itself, it's just, if there is something out there that was not intended to be addressed in this ordinance, you're not removing that.
And I understand that.
Okay.
That's why I'm okay with leaving it in, as long as there's an outlet for council to look at and help out a resident.
Yeah, could you guys bring back some verbiage with that, and then we can vote on it then? I would like to codify that, like, if we're gonna leave 25 in, I would like to codify that council has this, like, any non-conforming issues regarding penalties or whatever, it comes back to council so we can, because, again, we know what we want. My fear is leaving this in. I don't know if future council will know what we want, or if this will be a problem then, but I'm willing to leave it in as long as we can codify that it comes back to council for approval. Unless there's a legal reason why we cannot.
Well, the add savings clause, we need to amend to add the language that Barbara read, because it is not in the backup. I just opened the backup. So, and the sentence that we could add to the end would be that if there are any violations, as of the time of adopting this ordinance, if there are any pending violations that are triggered by this ordinance, that said violation is brought before council for consideration for an exemption. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the non-conforming uses ordinance to add the savings clause language read by our city attorney, and also to add language that says that if a violation is found to occur as of the time of the passage of this ordinance, that such a violation will be brought before council for consideration of an exemption.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kell. Is there discussion on that motion? So this is a motion to amend. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries 6-0. Motion to approve.
Second.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, the motion to approve is already on the table.
Oh,
So
no,
now we'll call for the vote for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries 6-0. All right. Next up is agenda item number 26, consider possible action to approve a First Amendment to the Porter Country Development Agreement. Mr. Atkinson.
Will Atkinson, Planning Director for the record. Both items 26 and 27 go hand in hand. The reason we're bringing these forward is because the Porter Creek subdivision and development, they have a public infrastructure district, and because of that, they have to have a certain amount of value added from a public improvement perspective to make it worth their while, and for the taking it out to bond and what have you. And so as part of that, they received approval to have public alleys and with public infrastructure in them. In conversations with staff and in other departments related to it, specifically Public Works does not, they have a big issue with maintaining alleys when we don't have enough money to maintain the streets we already have. So this is a direct outcome of that. It's a First Amendment to the Porter Country Development Agreement, to where it says that the developer or HOA subsequent will be maintaining those alleys, and they'll be entered into with a maintenance agreement for the city. And then item number 27, if you're okay with me moving forward, is
Let me go ahead and pull it up. Is agenda item 27, consider possible action to approve a maintenance agreement between the City of Kyle and Hillside Terrace. Go ahead.
And item number 27 is that maintenance agreement. So they have to be two separate documents per legal, and that's what these are.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Councilmember Flores Kell.
So can you explain again what happened as to the alleys?
So the alleys are generally public. Whenever you see an alley anywhere in the city, they're generally public. And as part of the public infrastructure district, they have to have so much money set aside for public improvements for their.
I can probably explain
You can probably
it.
explain it better than me.
They have a big grouping of infrastructure that they use to calculate how much money they can generate in a PID bond. And they want to use the alleys as a part of that overall PID bond that they issue. It has to be allowed to be public in order for them to get the credit so that they can issue the PID bond for the amount that we've already approved. But this document says that while they can do that and get their money for it, they still will be responsible for maintaining. So we're splitting a hair between it. They get their money, but we're not on the hook for maintenance. That's what it is.
Okay, I read it, and I was like, why are they giving up so much? What are they? I do appreciate them picking up that maintenance, but my confusion was why. But now that you tell me that, I would like to make a motion to approve agenda items number 26 and number 27.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on that motion? Mayor Pro Tem.
So my concern is when HOAs go defunct, we've had HOAs defunct in the past, does that still go back to the city? How do we address that? Or is there a way to address that?
Or will that go to the developer?
Generally, when HOAs go defunct, if they don't do it in a proper manner, it can languish. And there's a way to dissolve an HOA. It's a corporate entity and it can be dissolved. The property will normally go to another public entity, which would be the city, for its ongoing care and maintenance of whatever it was that they were supposed to be doing. Sometimes they don't do wrap-up as neatly as that. So this would be one of those things that I would recommend that if you have this, you would ask that notification be given to all HOAs within the city that you have gotten this now on your books, and that you are, you would ask them to cooperate. And if they do go defunct for whatever reason, or they just decide that there's no longer a need for it, that most HOAs are not going to do that this particular day, but there's still a chance.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do is go ahead and ask the HOAs. We're still dealing with two of them in your city, I think, right now, that we're trying to get control over. And so we would ask that, I would notify any HOA that if there's anything that they're thinking that might occur, that they have this now to remind them that they need to notify the city and, that it would be transferred over to the city for care.
Okay. The reason I brought this up is that the reason that I'm worried about this is I want to make sure that we maintain a standard. If they're going to be responsible for it, I don't want it to get like most of the spaces that we've seen right now where the trees are already 20 foot tall. I want to make sure that we have inspectors going out and seeing it in real time and making sure if it gets 6 inches too tall, they're getting a notification right away, because we've seen that a lot of our alleyways have gone and they're in disarray. Now when the city has to go in there, it's a big job. I want to make sure that we tackle this when it's a small job, so making sure that they're compliant to this and we have eyes on it, making sure that we are doing our due diligence as a city to keep the alleyways at a minimal, and making sure that the HOAs are responsible for them and maintaining them. Because what usually happens, and I've seen this in the last 3 years on the dais, is that these alleyways grow up, and next thing you know, you got trees that are 20 foot tall, and it's going to take a lot of manpower and a lot of resources to clean those alleyways out. So making sure that we have the staff that can maintain and oversee this is going to be important to me. So something that I want to make sure that we take care of and somehow rectify it in here moving forward.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councilor Tobias?
Okay. I don't know if Ms. Parsley needs some, but I think it says here in the conditions, correct, in the agreement, license shall maintain the alleys in good repair, working order, and good condition in compliance with this agreement and the development agreement. The city may require the licensee to take action to maintain the alleys in compliance with this agreement, including but not limited to removal of debris and rebuilding of reconstruction of the alleys. Such as action shall be completed within 30 days, days not feasible following the receipt of a written request from the city. I think that hits your point, Mayor Pro Tem. When it comes to these things, when we have these battles of whose responsibility is it when the grass is too high or when there's debris built up? Is it the homeowner themselves? Because it's like one of the issues I've been having with some of my residents in Steeplechase because of their property lines. Their property lines go all the way down to the very end. They don't understand that they've got to maintain that entire alleyway, that entire creek bed, because apparently their land leads into there. But I guess that leads to when we have HOAs that go defunct, there's really no stipulation on that. And then we have this overgrown brush, and then if we have a major flood like we did in 2015, then this is where we have these problems. So I guess that's where we want to make sure that if this goes through, who's going to be totally responsible for making sure all this is cleared out? And we don't have to be battling it back and forth in years to come with code enforcement, and it's the property owner, it's the HOA, and no, it's the city, because you got 3 people involved.
Councilmember
I
Parsley.
just have a quick question. Have they already picked a property owners association company? Who's going to be managing their subdivision?
I don't know who their property owner or their HOA is. It's just it's generally the developer, and then when they get to a certain point in housing construction, they transfer it over to an HOA of their choosing. The city usually does not have anything to say about what HOA or what property management company.
I was just curious to see if we knew what company was going to be managing their
No, ma'am.
division. That's it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, next up is agenda item 28. This item has a public hearing but will be postponed. Consider possible action to approve a resolution of the City Council authorizing and creating the Limestone Creek Public Improvement District in accordance with Chapter 372 of the Texas Local Government Code, resolving other matters. This item has a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? Okay, I'm going to leave the public hearing open, and we make a motion to postpone this item until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, we're going to postpone 29. We're going to postpone 30. Agenda item number 30 has a public hearing. An ordinance amending Chapter 53 of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 18.84 acres of land from retail services to planned unit development for property located approximately 400 feet southwest of the intersection of Marketplace Avenue and City Lights Drive in Haze County, Texas. This item has a public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? All right, seeing none, I'm going to leave the public hearing open and make a motion to postpone until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Rizzo. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up, agenda item 31, same thing, an ordinance amending Chapter 53 of the City of Kyle, Texas for the purpose of rezoning approximately 9.12 acres of land to PUD MXD for property located at the northwest corner of Burleson and Marketplace Avenue in Hays County, Texas. This item has a public hearing. It's now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, I'm going to leave the public hearing open and make a motion to postpone until the next regularly scheduled council meeting. Motion by Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores-Cale that we postpone. Is there discussion on that motion?
Real quick,
Councilmember Tobias.
on 31, planning zoning voted 3-1. Do we know what that one vote was about, just right off the bat? Just for curious. I can't remember if we talked about it.
If I may, just real quick, can we discuss that if they've motioned to postpone?
If not, we can wait till
Yeah, no,
next
it's on
time.
we haven't actually postponed it. You can stay
Okay,
if you'd like.
okay. You said item number 31, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was voted
MXD.
3-1 versus the other one up there was 3-2.
There was a little bit of confusion related to the parking and how it was being accounted for on the number, and they wanted some clarification on that. So and they provided it. So.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, next up is agenda item number 33. Consider possible action to approve a resolution amending the city's personnel policy to reference the use of performance improvement plan as a tool and approved by City Council on September 6th, and to amend terminology used related to exit interviews. Ms. Duran.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Last time, you all proposed for us to put a PIP tool in the adverse disciplinary action article, and we did that, and hopefully y'all were able to review that. And in doing that too, I recall having a conversation on exit interview, and so I wanted to change also the terminology on termination and exit to, so there won't be confusion on that as well. So if you'll let me know if you have any questions.
Does anybody have any
either
questions
one.
for Ms. Duran? Councilmember Flores-Cale.
Well, I just have some comments on the termination or the exit interview. My goal is that we interview anybody that separates with the city. And so the first sentence, upon separation of employment with the city, each employee shall be eligible to receive an exit interview. I would like that to read, will receive an exit interview, and then strike if deemed appropriate by the HR director and/or appropriate department head. And maybe if I get an example of why that would, what would be inappropriate, I guess.
Sometimes we have to remove an employee right away and depending on the situation, but we can always send a exit interview electronically. But most of the time you're going to get negative feedback because the employee is upset that they were separated.
To keep it fair and equal, and all things taken in consideration, I would like to get that kind of feedback from all staff, just to have a little bit of equality, and I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
Currently, when I do my exit interviews, it does take me an hour, and I've had an hour and a half to 2 hours per exit interview. So it will take a lot of staff time. But if we could do a combination of, hey, you can fill out this link instead of interviewing face-to-face. I like to interview face-to-face because I like to get more information out when they score something lower, to get details on why they feel a certain way. I usually don't get that electronically.
And I like the electronically, if somebody leaves under bad circumstances, I don't want to put any of our employees in any kind of bad circumstances, making sure that we do have that option as well. Because if somebody leaves here unhappy, maybe angry, I want to make sure we don't put our employees in bad situations.
Not only that, some people may leave for family reasons and then not come back, but it would be nice to have their input as well. So I think the electronic way is the way to go. And then in the last sentence, the final paycheck will be calculated and provided as part of the next ensuing payroll period. Did you guys get a chance to look at the Texas Payday Law, section 61.014?
That is if it's an involuntary separation.
Right, so that's what I was gonna say. So I wanted to add, comma, unless terminated, and then final pay will be paid per section 61.014 of the Texas Payday Law. Other than that, I'm gonna say it was a great document, and I appreciate everything that you put into it. I read it and I was like, well, I kind of see why it's good. It might be kind of a chore to do that, but my whole point is we don't have to put anybody on a PIP, but if the city is going to make an effort to do that, I do appreciate the policy that you put together.
Councilmember Tobias.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rand, for responding to my email on that. I'm glad. And it was referencing to harassment, and then of course, you've got the. I think we're going to look at updating the policy itself, not just for harassment, for unfortunately the obvious on some of these things, but also for anybody that's getting harassed politically, or whether it's race or whether it's any other thing, to where we don't want to have people to feel like they're being picked on or something like that.
Yes.
So it looks like we're working on that harassment definition to be more
I have
broader.
several edits through the whole entire personnel policy that we'll be introducing, and that's one of them.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
Well, I can handle the First Amendment if you want to do the Second Amendment. Or do you want to do them both? Okay, if you do them both, but just, I was going to suggest on the first one, as probably the straightforward way for me to say this, is to make sure that it's okay to strike if deemed appropriate, but I would like to add the HR director does have discretion on whether it's in person or electronic.
Can I add something else? Can I add that the exit interview will be offered, because there's times that they refuse to complete, so I won't be able to complete it if they refuse.
Yes. And in section K, where it says misuse of city equipment and services, it says using, possessing, taking, or providing any city equipment, credentials, services other than city official without proper authority. That would also include, let's say, somebody uses the credit card for, I don't know, gas, or let's say they take something from the city itself and use it for their own personal use, let's say tools or something like that. That could be something for grounds of dismissal. Correct?
And it could be considered theft as well.
Okay. And if that's the case, would the city file? If it is a theft, okay, you know, if somebody does take a specific amount or use it, and it's, would the city look at any kind of criminal charges in the event?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on the situation. We could
Okay.
probably ask for retribution to get the money back.
Okay,
And we probably would file a report with the police department,
okay,
but I don't know if we would like go all the way.
okay.
It just depends on how much, I think.
And the
value.
severity of it all? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, that's all I got.
So.
Motions?
Yeah, should I amend the second part? I'd like to make a motion to amend section 7.03 to read after payroll period, comma, unless terminated, in which final pay will be dispersed per section 61.014 of the Texas payday law, period.
Second. Motion made by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by the mayor to amend that section. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-1. You want me to do the top one, or you want to do it? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to amend section 7.03, exit interview, first sentence, to read, upon separation of employment with the city, each employee will be made,
Will be offered.
will be offered an exit interview, and that interview may be electronic or in person at the discretion of the department head.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale. Is there discussion on the motion? I know this was a really hard conversation. I think that we improved our books on this one, so I want to say.
I appreciate
I wanna
everybody's-
Say good job.
Thank you, everybody, appreciate it.
Especially Sandra for all your patience and your work on
Thank you.
this. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 5-1. Is there, this is not a, it's just a resolution, so it doesn't come back? Okay. All right, next up is agenda item number 34, second reading. Consider approving an ordinance adopting a policy for members of the city council regarding city business expenses charged on city-issued credit card and reimbursement of expenses incurred in carrying out official duties. This is second reading. I saw the changes Mr. Mohit made. I'm not sure why we added a public hearing for second reading, but it was listed and requested, so I left it on there.
That's good. I think we should have one.
Right. All right. Well, if there are no objections, I'm going to open the public hearing. Public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Mr. Mohit.
So Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for the record, I'm Pervez Mohit, City's Director of Finance. I'd like to very quickly review 3 items for your consideration since our first reading of the ordinance at the last council meeting. First, the red line version of the policy is in your packet, and I also placed a paper copy in front of you, so it's easy to refer to. First, I would like to review very quickly the amendments council made at the first reading. So we will begin with page number 3, item B at the top, which is part of item number 6B. Council had amended such that the cost centers would be looked at or monitored, or the variance, budget variance, would be calculated based on the bottom line of the budget rather than individual line items. So you will see in the red line version that I have accommodated that we would be comparing the total budget for each council member's cost center at the bottom line level rather than individual cost line items, with the exception of line item for legal services. So that's on page 3, item 6B. Then moving on to page 5, item number 8, council had requested or motion to delete items A and B at the bottom. So after a travel is completed for a council member, the city secretary is no longer required to place on the agenda item of the following council meeting. So that entire section has been struck out. Then on page 9, under unallowed expenses, there were some discussions at the last meeting what a newspaper would be allowed and what type of newspaper would not be allowed. So I've added some clarification, such as the American Statesman, Haze Free Press, Austin Business Journal, Wall Street Journal are the types of newspapers that would be allowed under this policy. Then on page 10 at the top, number 12 was just a hanging chad from the last correction. It belonged to item number 11 right above, so it needed to be deleted, which I did. So those were the amendments that council approved during the first reading of the ordinance and the policy. The second item for your consideration is at the last meeting, Councilmember Flores Kale requested that the 3 forms associated with this policy be made available electronically, which we did. We have made all 3 forms fillable PDFs, so you can download from the city's website, you can fill in, save, and send it to the city secretary. So that was item 2. Item number 3, at the last council meeting, we were pressed for time. We weren't able to review these clarification items that the city secretary asked that I ask council for clarification. And these are very brief, it won't take very long. So the first item is on page 10. And I believe the reason behind the city secretary asking these items to be clarified, it's my understanding from her past experience, these items have come up and she would like it to be clarified. So on page 10, item number 15, what used to be number 16 is now number 15. This is under unallowed expenses. Flight and/or travel trip insurance. Currently, as the policy reads, flight insurance or travel trip insurance is not allowed. We just want to make sure that that is okay with council.
I have a question. Am I incorrect if I state that is my understanding that all travel is booked through the city?
The city staff books it. We don't have a travel agent or an agency that we go through.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not doing it ourselves as council members. So you're saying when Jennifer or whoever does the flight or travel arrangements, that she does not purchase that for us?
Sometimes they are purchased depending on the council member requests. Sometimes they're not. So this policy would make it standard, no flight insurance.
Flight insurance meaning that if the trip is canceled, that there would be a credit and we'd be able to move it? Is that what flight insurance is?
Yeah, and my fear is you may not get that. Like, if we don't get that, is it?
Basically, so if we were to purchase refundable tickets, you would get your tickets back anyway.
Okay, so you guys, instead of doing the insurance, you would just purchase refundable tickets?
Yes.
Okay. But is that always the most cost effective? Because my I know like if I go through Southwest, it's always cheaper to do you want to get away? And then you can get insurance. And then maybe that is like $100 cheaper than getting the other ones. I just want to make sure.
What our experience has been with flight insurance, that it's not the easiest thing to deal with.
Okay.
So it's really not worth the money.
I'm okay with not having it.
Okay.
So the next item she asked me to get clarification on is item number 20 on same page, page 10. The current policy says that loss of personal funds and/or personal property would not be reimbursed. So her question was, does repair of personal property also included as a no? And my interpretation is that if the personal property is not subject to reimbursement, so any repairs to that personal property is not also reimbursable.
Can we have an example of
Yeah.
when that would be?
You drop your phone while working?
Yeah, so
While
you're walking
working.
down Chicago downtown, and you drop your cell phone in the sewer grate.
That's not the city's fault. I mean, I guess you just
Well-
kind of got to be responsible for your own phones.
But you're on city business, so the policy states that if you lose your wallet, your cell phone, your rings, your jewelry, we do not reimburse.
Is that the way it is with staff, too?
Yes. And once this policy is adopted, Mayor, we will mimic this for all staff.
And that's including, say you break your cell phone while you're on city business and you're gonna have to fix that on your own moving forward.
That's how the policy reads, yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure that most renters insurance and homeowners insurance covers when you're traveling.
Your cell phone?
Your personal, if you get robbed or if things get delayed or luggage, stuff like that. If your phone crashes in the ground because you drop it, that's nobody else's fault but yours. The
Yeah.
city shouldn't be having to
So,
pay for
so,
that.
so for me, it was, when I was on a trip for the city, I actually got hit by a freak rainstorm, came out of nowhere. I got soaking wet, didn't have any rain gear. My phone, had to get fixed. The city fixed it because I was on city business when I was hit by that rainstorm out in the middle of nowhere, no vehicle. So it was fixed. So that's where my concern comes in. What if it's something that, like that, legitimate?
I will say it would be different if it's, you have personal damage while you were in city business in a car going to a function and there's a car crash, and that will be something that I would consider, that maybe insurance would apply, but for phone and rain, I don't know, it's not something that I
It
think
would be like
should
if I'm
added
at
to
a
the policy.
conference and let's say my jacket gets snagged on something and this suit, whether it's $300 or whatever it is, say, oh, well, I was on a business trip and my shirt got ripped and so now I get a brand new suit or something like that.
Yeah.
Or my glasses fall or something. I know in some cities, in some counties, if you're on the job and say your uniform gets ripped because of whatever was going on, yes, you'll get a replacement or you'll try to get a used one. But I guess it's just trying to be very specific when it comes to personal property. If the act of God where you drop your phone and it breaks, then that's usually the luck of the draw. But I guess we're trying to prevent, okay, well, since I was on city business or I was on a trip, I need to get a brand new phone because my phone dropped
Yeah,
or
what if
my
you're-
glasses broke or
Yeah,
something.
it's not trying to get a new phone, it's just trying to get it repaired, but I can understand that people could take advantage of this, and I guess that's why this is being in place, because I
Exactly.
guess
You want to make
people are
sure
probably taking
for
advantage of it.
future
Yeah.
councils, we want
Yeah.
to make sure it's all lined out for everybody.
Yeah, there are some circumstances where something would happen on the job. I know in my personal job, if my phone breaks while I'm doing business in my work, they repair it or they replace it, but I'm good with, if council's will is to pass this, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I like the way it is, only because I think you'll get into a gray area if you're on city business, but you're going to a show and it's not city-related or something goes
Yeah.
along. And so I think it's just too gray, and just to say no is going to make it easier for Jennifer.
And I'm good with it.
Thank you. The next item is on page 11, item number 28, the new number 28. Her question here for clarification is is the 20% maximum on tips and gratuities on meals, is that pre-tax or post-tax? And
Well,
my
and-
answer is that it's pre-tax.
Pre-tax.
Okay. And frankly, the way I tip, I'm normally like right at 20%, but sometimes it could be slightly over depending on what the charge is, because so I'm not sure that that's something we need to have in here, but I understand why, but there are certain circumstances where slightly more than a 20% tip makes sense, like if it's a small charge or something like that, and 20%
To round it off.
20% would be 67 cents or something like that, and you want to tip $1, for example, for coffee or something like that. So if it would be up to me, this would not be an item that Jennifer's having to calculate tips to make sure that we didn't exceed that, frankly, but.
So, okay, so then what do we want this to look like in the future if somebody buys an item, goes to a restaurant, spends $15, and then they put, 25 on there? And if we're okay with that, we're okay with that. I'm just saying this is the, plain devil's advocate on the other side. Is that what we
I
want
think
it to
what
look
we
like
need
as
to do
well?
is go not to exceed the 20%. If you feel that the service was better or whatever it is, then that's where you would pay out of your own pocket.
Well,
If
it's
you want to
just-
do an additional.
Is Jennifer going to be, are we going to be asking finance to be calculating 20% on any and every tip that is, and making sure that we don't exceed it? Because I don't calculate the percentage that way. I have a different way that I do it. And so I would say sometimes I'm at 22%, sometimes I'm at 18%. I'm rarely less than 20% personal and just in the way that I always tip. So, and I think it's appropriate. So I wouldn't want to necessarily limit our ability
Perez,
to
what do
do
you
that.
think?
So.
Is it a lot of work for you guys to do that? Because we're not trying to make it hard for you guys either.
No, it's not a lot of work because we have to review each receipt anyway. But I see the mayor's point when it's a small ticket and you're trying to round it off, it's going to be over 20%. We can look at it case by case basis. What this is designed to do is excessive tipping. We've had in the past where the meal was only like $8 and the tip was $35.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a situation where I had been, my credit card, my city credit card wasn't working once, which has been very much an issue, and they gave me the coffee when I was there for a meeting, and the next time that I was there, I bought a cup of coffee and tipped extra as a way of making up for it. So there can be circumstances, but I've just never seen a situation where I felt like the council in particular was excessively tipping in some nefarious way. Like that's my point, is that this
Could
is
we
just
note that on the receipt? Like, we could do the 20% and then note if there's anything that's off?
We could, but the point is, from a policy standpoint, they need to know whether they are going through and calculating on every receipt the tip amount and doing a percentage it's like an audit to make sure, and then if we do, they're going to send us a bill for $1 or 60 cents or whatever it is, and I would just rather leave it off, is what I'm saying. I understand the point that is being made about excessive tipping, but.
So we can remove item 28 if council desires.
Is there like a happy medium where we're like, okay, anything under $10, is understandable if you do more than 20%, but then, if you have a $100 ticket and you leave,
Have we had an issue with council over tipping?
I recall one
Just one?
in the past.
Okay, so one time.
Yes, sir.
Well, and again, this is for the future, not just for us and not for the past. It's like, how do we want it to look in the future as well?
I think you make a good point, under a certain amount, it would be probably make sense to tip a little bit more than 20%. Like when I have coffee with the residents, my coffee or my tea is usually $4, $5, and the options are like $1 or $2, and I don't want to be miserable, and so normally I just always put $2. So.
Can we do that? Can we add like anything under $10? No, I don't want to make it hard. Never mind. I see your face. We can take it out too. I'm okay either way. again, I'm trying to think of future and making sure we don't ever have to go
Will
through
it
this.
be a case that an explanation is required if there is excessive tipping on a large amount?
Well, also the thing to keep in mind is that, you know, we have a budget, we're spending our budget, whether we're ordering one thing or another, or a tip, all of that has to be within our budget, and it has to be on an allowed business expense. And then every expense is scanned and posted online for all to see. So if there's something that is nefarious that is on there, very much out of line, you know, that goes to open records, that goes to the public, everybody can see it, and there is some accountability built into that system already. And so this is one of those where I understand the point of it, but if it was up to me, I wouldn't focus on the tipping, you know, in particular as a means of trying to control and limit that particular item, when there's a lot of different ways that you could put in limiting of your spending. You know, this is just the one where you're limiting on how the service, you know, that you receive, as opposed to the product that you purchase. It just,
Okay, we could take it out. Is there any way to just be like, hey, if this becomes an issue in the future, that it gets brought to our attention?
Yes, if it's alarming and it's out of line completely, we will bring that to council's attention.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
We'll first deal with that council member individually first.
Okay.
well, that's appropriate. Motion to remove item 28 out of unallowed expense.
Second.
Motion by the mayor, second by Councilmember Tobias. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
The next item the city secretary asked me to ask for clarification is whether in-flight Wi-Fi, paying for Wi-Fi in-flight, is that acceptable or not?
I think that totally should be. So is it listed as not here?
It's not listed at all.
Okay.
I
Well,
can
then-
give an instance where
Yeah.
I was needing, and it was the last boards and commissions meeting. I was on a fly desperately trying to log in because I know that you guys were shorthanded.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say, depending on the situation, it should be, or if you're trying to look at your schedule of meetings, if you're traveling, where you're going, where you're headed, sometimes that's necessary. So I
It's
don't-
literally the best time to work.
Yeah.
It is a great
On
Yes.
city
time.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's bothering you.
Let's go ahead and make sure that we're allowed to do that, because, I mean, you're sitting there, you're stuck there, so it might as well work. So, yeah, definitely.
So we'll leave it that it's allowed. And then the last item she had was on page 15. This is the form for expense reimbursements. If you were to use your personal monies and seeking reimbursement. So her comment is actually on the form itself. Her question is, should we not have, aside from description, also to require purpose, not just description, but also require purpose?
Like the reason?
So on the form, if you look at Exhibit B, the form, it has date, description, and total cost. So what the city secretary was asking for in terms of clarification, shouldn't the city, the reason or purpose of this expense should be there as well or not? Not just description.
I agree. What he's saying is, you know, if we put on there like gas, we should put, or no, we're not allowed to do gas, never mind, that was bad. If we put like dinner, maybe we could do dinner with a XYZ, or I think that's a great idea. I write all that information on all my receipts anyways. I feel like if that's going on the credit card and the taxpayers are paying for it, they have every right to know a detail of why I'm spending their money, where and when and how.
How detailed is that gonna be? What's it look like? Because I know if I mean, with the, you know, one of the things is we don't have offices. So it's something we'll put out right away. So when we meet with a resident and we're having a meal with them or something, because that's usually the only place we can meet, right? That resident probably doesn't want their information out there. So do we put down a resident, or do we have to put their name and first and last name? What that's gonna do is push residents from not meeting with us. Or if we've got elected officials that are meeting with us, I don't know if they want that information out there either. I mean,
Yeah, there's a happy medium. There is definitely a limit to it, but there's some amount of it that's transparent. I don't see the point of the question exactly, because it says description of city-related business expense. So it's asking for a description of a business expense that must be city-related. And so there's not much difference between that and the submission of a receipt using a city-issued credit card. It's gonna have the description of the expense as well, but
So
not necessarily a purpose.
If you were to write in on October 3rd, dinner with constituent, $36, to me, that provides the detail we need.
Well,
But if we just put dinner, then you're like, okay.
No,
Okay,
no,
yeah,
no.
so
Okay,
you could always put like detailed description of city-related business. So put the word detail in front of description.
Because the receipt will have the detail.
Okay,
Right, but the receipt has the detail.
Right.
okay, cool. That's what I
But,
wanted to know.
okay, so what you're saying is you expect us to write exactly why,
Okay.
the information on who we're with or what we're doing or how this is related to
No,
city?
I'm not suggesting that at all.
He's not suggesting that at all.
No, ma'am. So the comment from the city secretary was, should the city purpose be on this form as
Oh,
well?
yes.
So by saying dinner with the constituent, you've already explained what it was and why.
Okay.
And
I
then you
understand.
let,
That's my opinion.
and then you let your taxpayer, you let your voters, you let your residents determine who is it that you're having dinner with. And if they want to bring that up to you, that's what the form is for.
They might show up.
And
They
that's-
might show up at City Hall and
They might show up at City
raise-
Hall. I
raise
see
an item.
that Tobias had dinner with 4 constituents, and this person had dinner at 3 conferences. If we're gonna get really, really detailed and pick in really to the point, where we're gonna be transparent on this, that's what it leads to. If we're gonna really specifically say, I had dinner on this day with constituent. If a taxpayer or resident wants to come to me and says, I've noticed on your receipts that you've been having 5 dinners with a constituent resident, and then they can personally ask you who is it that you're having dinner with? If we're gonna get that detailed on this, this is what it's all about.
I am against that, because I have residents that show up every other Monday to talk with coffee, and I don't know if they will be okay having all their names out there. And I don't want to not being able to have them over and feel free to meet with me just to talk about city, because that's what we do. We just talk about what they like, they don't like, whatever they're gonna complain, and I want to encourage that. So I don't know if having their names and last name will be like, oh, you know what, I actually don't wanna come and have coffee with you.
I think we can
So-
protect their names. I think it'd be just an overall broad phrase on there, just constituent. We don't have to address it's Ms. Garcia or Mr. Miller or whatever it is. It's just on this day, $12.15 at, what's that place called? Moon Summer or Summer Moon? Whatever. Yeah, that place, if, just using that for example, had coffee and a donut and constituent, and there's the receipt. And that way the taxpayers can see what we're using, where we're at, what we're spending it on, and then if it's city-related, if they have to question, who is this constituent that you had, we were talking about, it had to do with their neighborhood. It had to do with something that's going on with an agenda item they wanted to meet. We happened to have a conversation, and we had a small meal or small drink.
That will respect their privacy.
Exactly. Just by putting it constituent across the board.
So we can leave the form as is.
Okay.
And Mayor, that was the last comment from the city secretary.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mayor, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. 35 is postponed. 36, discussion of possible action regarding the City of Kyle's open records request and release policies and procedures, including but not limited to Code of Ethics, City's Code of Ordinances. Councilmember Flores Kale, I was gonna request, because the city secretary I know will have a lot that she would want to say, and she has a very legitimate excuse for not being here. Is it possible that we could bring this up at the next meeting so that she could participate in that discussion?
Yeah, I would like to, yes, I was going to make the same, but I just briefly wanted to make sure everybody received the information, because I'm not trying to change a whole bunch. I'm just trying to get one area that's not made for cities of our size, but for bigger sizes. So I just want to make sure everybody reads the backup information prior to, but I am totally okay with postponing until Jennifer's back.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned. Good meeting.
Thank you, everyone.